this is Kiran Manral. I'm back with another episode of Chasing Creativity, and today I have with me a very dear friend, Saransh Goila, who burst on the food scene with food reality shows, and then he's gone on to trademark a dish that we're also familiar with, but infuse it with his own special something. Goila's butter chicken. Welcome to the show, Saransh.
Thank you, Kiran. First of all, it's a pleasure being here. We became friends on Twitter, and that means we are pretty dated.
Yeah, we're carbon dating ourselves now. This was way back before you even launched your butter chicken.
Absolutely.
And I've been watching your journey since. It's amazing, it's inspiring, and it's everything a young person who wants to get into the food scene but doesn't know what to do. It's like a, step by step, how do I get there? So I'm very curious, Saransh. I just learned that you're a Marwari.
Yeah.
And you're a Marwari who trademarked butter chicken.
It's a tough one.
How did that happen?
So I like my grandmother is a Marwari. Dad's side is Bania. So we are Bania Marwari.
Bania, both.
And mom is a Sindhi.
Okay.
So we are I'm like a combination of Bania Marwari Sindhi. So I think business is in my genes.
Lovely.
Maybe not butter chicken for sure. But I think when you grow up in Delhi, and I grew up like in a very North Delhi neighborhood, you feel like you're a Punjabi. Also, our surname Goila feels like it's a Punjabi surname, even though we are not. I realized that when I became a chef, I had to let go of my vegetarianism household. Like as a chef, I had to try everything.
Did you grow up a vegetarian?
Yes.
Okay.
For the first 18 years of my life, I was a vegetarian. So I'm not one of those people who say butter chicken was my favorite dish and I made something out of it. I ate my first butter chicken when I turned 20. So I was pretty late to the butter chicken party.
That's very, very interesting. You were late to the butter chicken party, but I'm sure there was always food on the scene while you were growing up. So how did the interest in food come about? How did that start?
I think, if you look at 2 decades back where Indian households were still pretty stereotypical, where housewives or women of the house are supposed to be the cooks and men do all the work. And now it's fully shifted. But in that time, when I would only see my mom and my grandmom cooking in the kitchen, every weekend my grandfather would step up and be in the kitchen and spend the whole day, Saturday and Sunday, either helping my grandmother or helping my mother. And I found that unusual because I did not see any other kid speaking about it or even being a part of it. So my family always encouraged stepping into the kitchen, even as a young boy. And I have a younger sister. So it was never like, "Arey, ye ladka hai, so why should he go to the kitchen?" So they were very supporting of the fact that food was our happy place. And my grandfather would make me a part of his weekend cooking ritual. I would be cooking like some pahadi dum aloo with him, or be rolling out like a saat parat ka paratha with my grandmother. So it was funny, but it became sort of my playground early on. I would not be playing cricket outside. I would be rolling chapatis or making jalebis, helping my mother in the kitchen. So I think it came to me naturally also. And my family was pretty supportive of me being in the kitchen. So that's where I picked it up from. So my grandfather's Sunday binge and watching Chef Sanjeev Kapoor on Khana Khazana. I used to maintain a recipe book of all the recipes that I saw on his show. It was 100 plus recipes that I maintained. And I was only 13 years old when I started watching his show. So that time span from 13 to 18-year-old is those 5 years I really cooked a lot with my grandparents and my mother. So I think that's where it all started.
That's the start of your journey into food. But back then also, it's not so back then, but and it still continues today. You get into engineering or you get into medical or you get into CA, lawyer. Yeah. When you told them you want to be a chef and you want to train and study in food, was there resistance? Bania family.
Yeah.
Kya kar raha hai ye ladka?
So, to be honest, my parents' vision for me was to become a biotechnologist.
Okay.
That's how they saw me. So I took science after 10th grade. You know how you take science, commerce or arts. So I was the science student in school. So their expectation was that I will enroll myself into a biotechnology course. I wanted to become an actor.
Really?
It was first an actor and then a chef.
Okay.
So for me, number 2 priority was to become a chef.
So they thought the chef was the lesser of the two evils.
Yes.
Is it?
That is exactly how it plays out. But my grandfather always thought that I will make for a fabulous cook. He
Okay.
kept saying, "Isko hotel management karao."
Okay.
His hand in food is very good.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming all grandparents or parents have their bias towards their kids. But he really felt that I had haathon ka jadoo, is how he would put it. And after listening to him, I was pretty excited. I was like, "Acha, haan, agar actor nahi, to I am very happy to go to a hotel management school and try and become a chef," because I used to love cooking. I still love cooking. But when you are young and you like something very from a pure-hearted sort of passion, that's what I had for food. And I cleared all the best colleges, like admission-wise. It was IHM Aurangabad that I chose, which is a Taj Group of Hotels college. And I straight up went for a culinary course. So I didn't do a proper hotel management course. I did a 3-year diploma in culinary arts.
Mhm.
So it was through and through about food.
Okay. You specialized in food, but I think you got an opportunity to satisfy the actor, the unfulfilled actor in you when you went on the reality shows.
Eventually, I did. I did not let go of it. Even in school, I was a theater actor. And when I went to college, I sort of kept it alive in small formats, doing activities in college. A culinary college does not give you much
Scope,
opportunity.
yes.
But when I got my first job at the Leela, I still remember there was this huge Christmas gala that was happening in the Leela. And the exec chef there pointed out that this kid has got gift of the gab, and he knows how to talk. So how about we give him the opportunity to talk to our audience today about the Christmas menu? And they put me on the podium. So instead of getting a stand-up comic, they got me.
Oh, lovely.
So they were like, you leave the kitchen thing, you go out, and you...
That was your first taste of
That was my first taste of being a food presenter or a food MC in a way on the stage. And I did so well that they gave me a bonus that month, and I quit my job.
You quit your job
After that, because I realized that I am actually so good at this that not many people have the skill of being able to speak or orate about their love for food. So I realized that the way I can talk about food, not many other people can. I can explain myself, and that gives me an edge over other people in the industry. So I straight away quit my job, moved to Mumbai, and I did an acting course. I went to Barry John's acting studio.
This is a very interesting nugget. I did.
Because I had this weird idea in my head that if I became a professional chef and a professional actor, I could combine the two and become a TV chef.
Okay.
So I thought that there was a way of cracking this from technically, and not just be like, "Arey, mujhe TV pe koi show de de to maza aa jayega."
So was Sanjeev Kapoor like an icon at that point?
100%.
Because you were watching him from 13 to 18, you said.
Yeah. He was the mentor. He became a mentor later, but for me, he was my idol. The way he presented himself on television, the way he conducted himself, the way he narrated his recipes. People were like, we were all starstruck for 2 decades. And so I think I used him as an example to be able to crack this in a way where I actually dropped a show reel to his office saying that I'm a chef who's also an actor after graduating from Barry John's acting studio, where I did a 6-month course, and I made a show reel of me doing a little cooking show. And I heard back from them 1.5 years later.
Oh, mother of Christ! 1.5 years later.
I got lucky that they remembered me. Actually, I find myself lucky there because I had knocked a lot of doors. At that time, there was NDTV Good Times. There was Fox and Travel. There was Nat Geo. There was Food, Z Cafe. They were like the food channels are mushrooming up everywhere. But I think the CEO of Chef Sanjeev Kapoor's channel remembered me, and they were going to do this reality show called Maha Challenge, and they said this young boy might just fit perfectly in that show, so let's invite him for an audition. So that's how I got my call. And a little risk to reward ratio is how I look at it. I think my risk paid off. It took some time. It paid off in 2 years of me quitting my job. But once I found that opportunity, I held on to it with my whole soul. And then I was the youngest participant on that show.
How
Maha
old were you
Challenge.
then?
I was 24.
24, okay.
And it was, the show was spread over 13 weeks. It was pre-MasterChef. MasterChef India was just coming to India, and Chef Sanjeev, and he's always ahead on these things, so he launched his own MasterChef called Maha Challenge. And Madhuri Dixit was the co-host on that show. And yeah, after 13 weeks of battling it out on the set, I went on to win that show. And I think that changed my life, because the winner of that show gets to do his own show on the channel called Food. So that gave me that opportunity that I was looking for. And cherry on the cake was that the show that I got as a gift after winning this show was a travel show.
Okay.
Which fully changes my life, because that is a travel show where I got to travel to 60 cities of India, 20,000 kilometers by road across 100 days. And I was almost 25 by the time that show was filmed and I was done. I think I started looking at food very differently from where I started to what I experienced, to what I wanted to become. I think it changed my entire notion about food. I was like, oh my God, I know nothing about Indian food. And I realized that people or chefs cooking in the kitchen also knew nothing about Indian food, what we were taught, what we learned on the job. It was only an iota of the ocean. It was all untouched. Like in today's day and age, now we speak about regional cuisines, we talk about different communities. Not so like recently, like 2010 or 2012, I remember nobody speaking about litti chokha or speaking about dhuska from Jharkhand, or speaking about a cheese from Jammu, Kaladi. So all of this has come to the forefront now. And I got to see all of that 10 years back. And I felt like I felt pretty rich as a person, because I had gained so much from just traveling, meeting people in different cities, sitting in their homes, sharing meals with them. And it was a very simple formatted show. It was literally about you just show up to somebody's house. We had done, of course, some research. We had spoken to people. And it was pretty free-flowing. They're like, you feed him whatever you want to feed him. And people in India are incredible, because they will pull out as a khazana. They will take out, okay, I got this mithai for you from this person. This lady has been making it for 40 years. And suddenly you start realizing the value of food in our country. And even though I run a butter chicken venture, but our cuisine is not just about butter chicken dal,
of course,
and naan, right? It is so much more.
So I remember that you brought out a book on this entire journey. And I remember moderating that conversation at the launch. And because I had to moderate the conversation, I read the book. And I remember thinking that this guy is so lucky. A, he gets to travel. B, he gets to eat. He gets to be on a show. And then after that, the book came out. And after that, you went in a different direction completely. I mean, you had your show, of course, but you got into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And you sort of, I would say, patented the butter chicken with a very different texture, flavor, all of that. So how did this idea of taking something as generic as butter chicken and making it your own come about?
Sometimes it's, as in you rightly pointed out, that I was going on a very different path. I wanted to be this chef traveler who collects recipes from across the country. Sometimes life just has different plans for you. And in my story, it turns out to be butter chicken. Every time I'm asked, is this your favorite dish? And I tell people no. Butter chicken is not my favorite dish. I think it is a dish that is so loved that when I found a good recipe of it, I think it became my favorite thing to cook. Because while I was pursuing my TV career and I was traveling across the country, I used to do these food pop-ups in Mumbai, where I would meet people from Twitter, from Facebook, friends whom I had met. I had not never met, but I'd met them online, but never met physically.
Face to face, yes.
So I would invite them to my home or sometimes to my pop-ups to come and experience my cuisine or things that I've learned from my travels. And butter chicken would feature there because it would remind me of home. I'm from Delhi. All my friends would love butter chicken. And interestingly, the butter chicken recipe that I was making was derived from a vegetarian recipe.
Okay.
Which I had made for my parents because my family is fully vegetarian. No Goila has ever eaten butter chicken apart from me.
They haven't even been tempted to try yours?
No. Because they get exactly that, but with paneer.
Okay.
Vegetarians or people who eat butter paneer masala or paneer makhani sometimes feel cheated because they are like, oh my god, look at the butter chicken eaters. They are all like licking their fingers, ordering extra naans while we have to eat mithai because there's too much sugar, too much cream. For some reason, they make the butter paneer look like, like a shahi tukda. I don't know why. So I wanted to change that for my parents. So I made a recipe which was robust. It had extra smokiness. It was low on fat. It had a bouquet garni of spices, so it had more depth. Good balance of khatta, meetha, only fresh tomato, no puree, no ketchup, things like that. So I think they would they loved. They said this is the best butter paneer they've had in my life. But I am like, acha, my parents, of course, they will say that. But then from parents, it went to uncles and aunts. From there, it went to extended family, then to friends and family, then to these pop-ups in Mumbai. So this recipe started featuring in all my places because people were asking for it again and again. But in Bombay, it took a different whole shape because when friends whom I had made on Twitter and Facebook, they started coming. Two of those, now a few of my best friends in Bombay, they started a hashtag called Goila Butter Chicken. So their name is Nikhil and Anish. Both of them are like food people.
Nikhil Merchant and Anish Bhasin.
Yes. So
foodies.
Both foodies, yeah. Both great food people. So they made this hashtag. And that hashtag picked up on Twitter and Facebook where people started asking, where do you find this Goila's butter chicken? And it literally started hounding me. Like people started catching me at airports. They started like any chat. Like if I would drop a recipe or I would give a life update, people were like, "वो सब तो ठीक है, but butter chicken कहाँ मिलेगा?" It literally was that my life became about this butter chicken even before the venture launched. So I realized that it would be a disservice to not give people this recipe. I in fact shared the whole recipe on YouTube.
You did.
So that they can make it at home. But they're like, ye milega kahan? We want to eat it. Because you invite people at home. This is not done. You can't be that elitist chef who's inviting people at home but not serving people who love what you do, your recipe. So I think I got sort of caught up in this emotion of wanting to serve people. That recipe that they wanted to be served. And my friend and co-founder Vivek, he had recently moved from Indore to Mumbai. He was my batchmate from college. And he's the one who had seen this recipe being made in college because I actually came up with this recipe
back in college. So,
and that's when I had made it for my parents. And I had no clue it's going to become what it has today. So he moved here and I took that as a sign that I'm like, you know what? This is coming back a full circle. I made this recipe with him. He's here and he was looking for work to do in Mumbai. So I asked him, will you want to start this venture with me? We'll keep it old school. We'll open a little dhaba in Andheri. Only takeaway and delivery. I don't want any restaurant because if I open a restaurant, then I will not be able to pursue my other side of things, which is I love television. I love to make content. I don't want to let go of it. So a delivery kitchen might give me that opportunity to do both. And he agreed on it. And June 2016, we launched Goila Butter Chicken.
So the first kitchen started in Andheri. And from there, it grew. And I remember your initial launch campaign. You were all over Twitter. It became huge. It became really, really popular. At what point did the chef decide that I'm going to be an entrepreneur first and a chef secondly? Because that was a huge decision, I think. Like, no, it's
Yeah,
not
it's a
something
tough one.
you can't
It's
take that easily.
it's a tough one. Like I think I still feel divided about it.
Okay.
It's a constant struggle to remind yourself that everything that you do as a person, it comes from a place where you love food. That's how this journey started. Like my grandfather used to say, a friend in need is a friend indeed, but a friend who can feed is the friend you need.
Okay, I
So
love that.
so it's a fun play of words, and I come from that school of thought. That's my love for food. But when you take it up, when your passion becomes your profession, of course there's a lot of change that happens in the way you look at
Mhm.
your passion, in the way you nurture it, and in the way it grows.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have no control over it, and I think that's what I've learned out of this journey of Goila Butter Chicken, where I realized that donning a hat of an entrepreneur was the most important to
Mhm.
make this successful. Which meant that when we started it, both Vivek and me are chefs. It was self-funded. We invested whatever a small amount of savings, I think about 10 lakhs each, into this venture, and it wasn't much. So we started it from like a bare shell kitchen. We wanted to just serve 8 dishes, including breads and one or two starters, and we wanted to keep it very simple.
Mhm.
But as soon as you start serving it to people, it's like a expectations versus reality sort of a situation, where you also realize that people follow you. They've been following you for years. In my case, they had seen me on television. Their expectations were more.
Mhm.
They're like, okay, we need to see nice packaging. We need to see, while they were appreciating the food, they also wanted to appreciate other parts of it. What kind of branding do you have?
Okay.
Okay, is it cool? Is it young? Is it vibrant? So those kind of questions started to
Mhm.
come in,
Mhm.
and I realized that for this to live a long life, we'll have to think of it as a proper brand.
Okay.
This can't just be a dhaba, like the way I started it, or in my mind, how it was. So we started looking at it from a more uh, entrepreneurial side or a business perspective. Okay, right side of marketing, right kind of packaging. How do we make sure that we are delivering it on time? How do we crack our partnership with Zomato and Swiggy? Data
Hmm.
became like, as a chef, I had never heard of the word data in my. I knew what data is, but I never bothered learning about what does data mean in the world of food. I think it was non-existent before the delivery apps came, because
Hmm.
all of us would start restaurants on our gut feelings.
Hmm.
My family likes it, my friends like it, let's start a restaurant.
Hmm.
Or you would feel there's a gap of an Italian food restaurant or an Indian food restaurant in this market, and you will open it. So but in today's day and age, if you want to open a restaurant, you will get proper data, which means how many people here are working, what age groups, families or individuals. So you get all that data, and then you use it to start a restaurant or a cloud kitchen.
So
And
informed decisions now.
informed decisions. So I think we started making those. We realized that product though is key. We have to serve the tastiest butter chicken that you would have ever eaten, but coupled with tech and data, it could become into something that we did not have in this country, which meant a standardized curry venture or a North Indian venture that one could put some method to this madness, where you could do it for the Gen Z or the millennial audience. That's the audience we were going for. So yeah, so I think that's where I started to realize that I will have to be more open to looking at this venture from a different perspective, and not just as a chef. So I started going to a lot of panels where I met founders for different brands. I started meeting a lot of different kind of founders, not just in the world of food,
Okay.
which meant founders who started F&B brands, maybe retail brands or D2C brands. So that really opened my mind that it's not, as a chef, I don't have to think of it from a unidimensional standpoint that a chef can run his kitchen only like this. I realized there are several possibilities of running this business. Um, and I found myself not on the restaurant side of things. I found myself on the cloud kitchen side of things, and we were early movers in that space, which meant there were no chef-driven brands in the cloud kitchen space in 2016. We were practically the only ones.
Okay.
Which meant there was a whole side of tech who was selling food, and that was the only food that was being sold on Zomato and Swiggy, or there were restaurants who were listing themselves on these platforms. But there was no focused delivery brand that had started, which was done by chefs. So we were sort of, I think, one of the first few ones, and that sort of, I think, paid off.
You started it, you said, with only 8 or 10 dishes. And you were the only cloud kitchen brand that is driven by a chef, that is headed. You were the face of the brand. Now, when you're going to scale up, A, you need more dishes.
Yeah.
B, scaling up means that the sort of control that you have on the quality of the product also needs to be standardized and uniform across. So what are the challenges you faced? And especially now that you've scaled up so much, you're 100 outlets, 100 kitchens.
With food, and especially with Indian food, it can be very challenging. Every time you'll meet investors, they'll tell you no. It is you can't scale up an Indian food brand. No, you can't become a McDonald's. You can't become a Domino's.
Okay.
Because Indian food for the Indian audience is definitely a challenge when you're scaling up, because you have competition every 2 kilometers with a local dhaba or with a local eatery, which takes good care of you, because it's run by two friends, like how Awake and Me started, or it's run by families, or it's just run by people who like selling food. So technically you're going to become competition to all of them when you start scaling up, and you're going to go to different cities, you're going to go to different regions, and you will not be there yourself physically. So how do you instill the same value, same emotion, same passion when you grow? And for Indian food, it becomes all the more important. So the first mistake we made was we thought that if we instill the same values and passion, is going to work. And if I get the right chefs, if I get the right managers, if I pay great salary, it's going to all work out really well. And we did that for our first 5 or 6 stores when we went from Andheri to Bandra to Lower Parel to Chembur. That was our first scale up within the city. Even then we realized, okay, this is not how it's going to work.
Okay.
We had a large 2,000 square feet kitchen in Chembur which shut in the first year of opening.
Really?
Because we made so many mistakes.
What were the learnings from that?
It was that as chefs, we hold on to few things very close to our heart. Which means if I have to cook my butter chicken in step A, B, C, D, E, I am not going to sacrifice that. It has to be cooked in A, B, C, D, E format. It can't become ABC and it's done. So I held on to that for almost 4 years of starting this venture. And I think that became the biggest problem of me holding on to things very close to my heart. Then we found a great mentor, and his name is Karan, who was running this cloud kitchen business, and he was already running some 20-25 kitchens. He said, I just want to help you guys out, where I want to break this notion of yours ki cloud kitchen ka business as chefs you can only run like that. He said, just try a few things out with me. I want to see if you like them. So he made us change our process of the way we manufacture. I'm literally going to say manufacture, because when you start cooking at scale, it's no more cooking. You're manufacturing. You're a factory. And people get very scared of thinking about food like that. And I don't know why, because it's obvious. When you're feeding food at scale, you're mass producing food. Even temples do that. For langars, you do that. So I find it odd when people think of food at scale, they think like, oh my God, something is getting compromised. I used to be the same person.
Mhm.
despite being technically sound and seeing how food is made, when you think of food being produced at thousands of kgs or in quantum that you can't sort of fathom, you feel like there's going to be some sort of compromise in this process. It's not going to taste the same like the way we were making that handi in our small kitchen in Andheri. So he broke that notion for us. So Karan helped us, and he is a proper investor, so he thinks of it like that. So he's an entrepreneur and not a chef.
Mhm.
So I think I was able to learn that side of entrepreneurship from him, and yeah, so we changed the process, the
Mhm.
way we make our butter chicken, and as soon as we did that, and it was tasting exactly the same,
Huh.
and no change in the ingredients, only
Okay.
change in the process of the way we cook it.
Okay.
So we invested in better machinery, got bigger tools, automated
Mhm.
equipment. So we are able to consistently provide the
Mhm.
same taste to people who are going to order from us. So that changed our horizon a little. We realized, okay, now we are ready. If we have to open 10 stores, 20 stores, I don't want to make a classic Indian kitchen. I
Mhm.
will make a kitchen where we can use modern machinery to make thousands of kgs of base gravy. And then, yes, our smaller kitchens in smaller spokes from where we deliver, there we grill fresh tandoor mein chicken, and there we'll make fresh naans and all of that. But our gravy is now
Mm.
produced at scale in one spot. So
Okay.
the taste remains the same.
Okay.
So those kind of decisions sort of helped us go from 1 to 10 and now 10 to 100. But the biggest decision that we made was to join hands with Biryani by Kilo. And I would like to thank Vishal, who's the co-founder of Biryani by Kilo. In fact, him I met at a panel.
Oh, lovely.
It is, it's one of those things. I am very thankful that I go for all these panels because you get to meet people who are like-minded. And what they did with Biryani by Kilo was incredible, which meant that they took that biryani in a matka where they do fresh dum for each biryani in 40 cities from 110 kitchens. It is unbelievable how they were able to pull that off. Because doing it from one or two locations is easy, but imagine every order that goes out of their kitchen goes in a sealed
Fresh dum.
matka, and I was amazed.
Hmm.
As in, my mind was blown. I'm like, okay, there are also people who do this kind of stuff at scale. So when I met him and I told him that we are, now looking at scaling of Goila butter chicken in a format where there are no, I don't see any North Indian brands that have a pan India presence, and we really want to change that. We want to become
Mhm.
the KFC someday. Someday I would love to be that uncle, Colonel Sanders, but Colonel Goila sitting on that little brand mascot for Goila. So, and he laughed and he's like, you know what? Uh, you're right. Like we have been able to break into this biryani space, and Biryani by Kilo is one of the largest biryani players in the country. He said, but there are no North Indian synonymous brands. We have some old school ones, yes, but there aren't any that were popping up
Mhm.
on our minds at all. So he said, why don't we do a little pilot? How about you start Goila butter chicken with us in Bangalore? We'll plug you in our 8 kitchens in Bangalore,
Hmm.
and let's see where it takes us. So that happened in 2022 and 23. So
Okay.
for a year, we did a pilot where we launched 8 kitchens with them, tried it out. We found a lot of love in Bangalore. So we
Mhm.
realized that, okay, even outside Mumbai, the brand has legs and people appreciate our food even outside the city we were born in. And that made both of them, Biryani by Kilo and Goila Butter Chicken, confident that, okay, this sort of marriage can work out for us at a pan India level. So, yeah, so we shook hands with Biryani by Kilo, and now we are scaling all across India with them, and hence we've been able to do 100 stores in the last 18 months. It's been
Lovely.
incredible.
As well as going international.
Yes, we have a presence in London. We have 2 cloud kitchens there. Hopefully, by the end of year, we want to go to the Middle East. As I said, now from being that person who wanted to say कि एक ही होना चाहिए in Andheri. Now the vision has changed to, oh my God, this needs to travel the world. Like, it'll be a shame if Goila butter chicken is not there in at least 50 countries in the world in the next 10 years.
Lovely. So wherever I travel, I should find a Goila butter
Yes,
chicken.
you should be able to do that. We would love to be that Indian brand who went from India across the world. And, we Indians get very glamorized when Western brands come to our country. And I think it's time now to do the reverse, where when we go out to the US or the UK or across Europe, we should be able to spot some cool Indian brands. And I don't mean that just for Goila. It could be, there are so many good Indian food brands now. And Indian chefs are already traveling.
Yeah, they are.
Like look at legends like Chef Vikas Khanna, and there are so many chefs who make us proud across the globe. So I think it's the right time.
Lovely. Wish you all the best in that. And I'm hoping to eat from Goila butter chicken when I travel abroad next. I'm also curious because your process is taking food which has been time tested and which is traditional, but yet you have to bring in something that is contemporary, something that is unique. So, what is your creative process for your recipes?
That's a great question, actually. As I said, we cook food for our future audience in a way, to put it out like that. Today's audience is very well read. They have everything at the tip of their fingertips. They can Google anything and they would have information about whatever they like. So because it's an informed audience, people who are more conscious about their diets, people who are careful about what they eat, we want to engage with them in a format where they feel like they're eating clean and they're eating well,
Healthy.
despite the fact that they're ordering from outside. Our agenda is pretty simple. We say, okay, this is restaurant wala khana made by chefs, but it is going to make you feel like you are eating at home.
Okay.
So which means we are using our chefness or our technical knowledge to be able to give you food that is tasty but without that addition of extra ghee, extra makhan, extra sugar. Because I don't appreciate that myself. Like, I also want to be able to order from Goila, which means as a person who loves his food, who loves ordering in, I don't want to be the person who's also selling food that I might not order myself. So we try to imbibe that philosophy, and I think that has helped us. We feel like people end up ordering more from us because then they think of us as a brand that's friendly for lunch, as a brand that's friendly for dinner as well. So we've expanded our menu, which fits different times and pockets of the day. If you want to indulge, yes, there are a couple of dishes on the menu which are very indulgent. You will want to eat once a month and then you don't want to go back to it. And then we have dishes on the menu, let's say our chicken curry or rajma chawal. Very, very old school basics. But I feel like nobody takes the effort to do these things well or clean anymore. Which means, like, if I wanted to get rajma chawal from outside that still felt like home, is someone serving you that? वो बाहर से जब आता है, restaurants have this habit of putting an additional tadka to it.
Yeah, or cream or something heavy.
Something they will want to do because everybody wants to show their creativity. So it's not wrong. But I feel like we are not in that space. We are in the space where we're like, okay, I will use my chefness to make sure that this can travel to 100 locations, technically sound. I want to make sure every time you order the rajma chawal from me, it will be the same. Okay. So I'm going to use my technical knowledge to get that right. I'm not going to get too creative with my recipes. So what we've done back is recipes we try and keep as close to as what people like. We do a bit of Goila twist everywhere. Wherever we find an opportunity, we try to better it in a way. Or if not better it, we make it different.
Okay.
So that we separate ourselves from the competition a little on that part at least. So when you order butter chicken from us or a classic butter chicken, both are very different. That's why we call it Goila's butter chicken. So classic butter chickens also have many variants. So every person you will ask, what's your favorite butter chicken? Someone will say spicy, someone will say creamy hona chahiye. Somebody will say masaledar if you're a Punjabi. So people have their own versions of the butter chickens they like. Um, and then we say we are Goila's butter chicken. That's why we don't pit ourselves to competition with legends. Like when I go to Delhi, I will still go to Pandaya Road and might enjoy butter chicken at Have More because it's got a different vibe altogether. One of my favorites is Invitation in Ashok Vihar, which is my like personal favorite butter chicken. So I feel like there's space for all, but what helps us stand out is the fact that we put our own little differentiation on each recipe. We keep it simple, and we try to be very, very consistent with our product.
Lovely. Another very important thing, Saransh, because you are a chef, you are also a content creator, and you have a huge following on YouTube, you have a huge social media following. How does that pressure you to constantly keep coming up with content, and how effective is that in terms of building your brand as a chef?
It is definitely like a pressure cooker, if I have to put it out like that. Especially when I'm trying to juggle between being a content creator and running the business on the side. Because content creation is equally demanding, if not more. I have often told myself maybe that can be a side gig, but it's never that. No content creator will survive if it's just a side gig for them. You have to be extremely patient when you're growing from numbers from like 1,000 followers to 1,000,000 followers. It's a long journey, and it's tough to sort of keep up with that creativity. Every day you have to come up with new recipes. Every day you have to come up with new ideas of engaging and entertaining people. And there is a certain amount of fatigue or monotony that can set in even there. Even though you're cooking new dishes every day, even though you're cooking with new formats every day. And in those cases, I have found myself switching off digitally. And I take travel, I call them travel digital breaks.
Okay.
Which means as soon as I have become one of those people who will pull out their phones when they are traveling. I will not lie. Like my phone will shoot and record, but I don't post. I travel, I enjoy, I let myself soak in the beauty of the city and the conversations I've had with people sink in. 2 weeks later or 10 days later, I will upload that content.
Okay.
And I'll get back to my digital life. So I have started taking long digital breaks. As in the digital world, 7 or 8 days if you're disappeared,
it's like
it's
the kiss of death.
Don't know if you're alive or not. So I've often started taking these. I think every 45 or 60 days,
okay,
I do a 1 week digital detox, and I use that time to travel and learn more.
Lovely.
I am a big Anthony Bourdain fan, and his words always stick with me. You know, where he says that when you travel to a new city, there is something that you leave, and then there are scars that the city leaves on you. And I feel that is true for even small trips that you do to, like, recently I went to Patna, and oh my God, there was this girl who took me around the entire city very sweetly. She said, I'll take you to my best mithai shop. I'll take you to where I grew up when I went to college. This was the guy I used to get my pita from. And it's things like those that really change your perspective again and again about food. And it reminds you of why did you start on this journey in the first place. So I find that very inspirational. That those simple food trips, 2-day trips, you just go and it changes everything.
Lovely. What's coming next from Saransh?
I think next is first is upkeep of these many stores. It's an uphill task. I wake up with 30-40 DMs of "Mari packaging theek nahi aayi." Today there was less chicken in the butter chicken. So with great power comes great responsibility. Sort of a situation where I'm like, now we've opened 100 kitchens, we have made so much noise about it. Now we have to keep up with the pressure of delivering the promise of the brand. So that is the next year of the next 12 months look like that for me. Plus I am, of course, as I said, I love content. I am building, I'm writing a show, ott show where I want to um, share Indian food stories a little differently with
Okay.
people. So I'm working towards that and building that. That is something that I'm very passionate about. So between that and Goila Butter Chicken and sharing reels with people, I think there is no time to do anything else.
I love the fact that you're going back to where you started from.
Yeah, I feel like reels are great. I'm not going to take away from short format content, and because I also make a living out of it, so I'm thankful for that. But I do feel like after having done this for so many years, um, I feel like going back to it. I feel like meaningful content that 60 seconds maybe आप बता सकते हैं. You can express yourself, of course, but the joy of telling long format stories is just different. So I don't want to forget where I started from. So I think it's an attempt to go back and see if people still like watching food content this long.
Lovely. Final question. You never did tell us what your favorite dish is.
Oh, my favorite dish, yeah. Because I've said so many times butter chicken is not my favorite dish. Uh, my favorite dish is a very simple home cooked meal. It's Sindhi curry, matar wale chawal, aloo or arbi took, some papad on the side,
Achar.
and achar. That would just do it. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I think I want that for dinner.
Love you. I love it. Thank you so much, Saransh, for all
Thank
this
you.
information, which I think anybody looking to get into entrepreneurship should definitely listen to. And all the best for going global.
And I hope that we're feeding you butter chicken for dinner.
Definitely. Now you've got me salivating at the thought of it.
Thank you.
Thanks.